You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey there, it's Dr. J. Evan, what's going on this great Tuesday?
Hey, good morning, man. I'm drinking some vitamin C and I'm feeling quite yummy.
Nice. Yeah, I got my butter and MCT coffee here, rocking it out, getting my ketones up. So I'm in a fat burning mode today, feeling really good.
Great.
How was your weekend?
It was great. My wife and I went to Cumberland Falls State Park. It's the biggest waterfall in the South. And I'm going to be making like a little vlog on my YouTube channel of our adventure. We ended up coming home at like 4 a.m. on Sunday morning because the bed, we rented a little cabin. The mattress in this cabin was so freaking uncomfortable. And because of her pregnant belly, she's unable to get in a comfortable position as it is. And it had the worst, like 19,000 springs in it. That
oh my gosh.
It killed our back. So we tossed and turned until 4 o'clock. And then I said, babe, we need to just get up and go home because it's a 3-hour drive, but we'll still get more sleep there than trying to lay and toss and turn here. So, but it was still fun. It did not hinder our ability to enjoy the rest of the time we had there.
That's good. So you survived it. Very nice.
Yeah.
So I'm getting back in the gym again, just more frequently. I'm lifting heavy again, doing a lot more compound lifts like front squats and, deep deadlifts. So I'm feeling really just a good total body soreness, just a really good healthy soreness. So I like that feeling. I'm looking forward to bringing that back more frequently, kind of combining that in with some of the high intensity interval training and then some of the heavy lifting as well.
That is a great feeling. Yeah, I'm going to be back into the gym today. I took probably a week or so off. I pushed it a little too hard in that belly button pain where I thought I had a hernia, but it ended up being an abdominal wall tear. I felt something give, so I was like, I'm going to take a week off and up the collagen. So now I'm going to revisit it.
And I think, too, once you get your infections fully eradicated, what's going to happen is you're not going to have that viscerosomatic reflex. Viscero meaning organ, somato meaning muscle. So when you have inflammation in the surrounding organs, they're on the same 2-lane sensory nerve highway as the muscles around there. So I think what's happened is the inflammation in those organs are refluxing to the sensory nerves that go to those surrounding muscles, probably L1 through maybe S1 regarding the spinal nerves, and they're probably shutting off some of those muscles for support.
Okay. So I should be increasing my ability to lift and not feel pain.
Absolutely. Yep. That's one of the big ones. We could do a whole podcast on that piece alone.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I see a big connection between these organs and inflammation in the organs and the muscles being affected. And we all know this intuitively, right? Anyone that knows about like heart attack symptoms, we know it's that left arm pain, left jaw pain kind of thing, right? We see it with appendicitis in that lower right hip quadrant. We see it with gallbladders in the shoulder. We see it with every woman who has had PMS. For the most part, they can empathize with some lower back pain right in and around menstruation.
Definitely.
So it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
Well, we talked before the show. we're really trying to connect the dots for our patients listening and people that are having health issues. So it's a practical show. And one of the things that we have talked about the last few weeks is we're seeing people that have normal adrenals but are coming back still a little bit tired throughout the day. And why is that? So we're going to help connect the dots with that. And we've done some other shows on this where we talked about the mitochondria and the thyroid, which are some of the major driving factors of why someone may be fatigued and tired even though their adrenals look good. So refer back to those shows for anyone that's listening for more in-depth info. But we're going to kind of connect the dots here just so we're putting everything in one place, because this is a common symptom that we've been seeing recently.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, so we'll start the story, I suppose, with a patient story of mine. Maybe you have one as well. And fatigue and inability to cope with stress were some of the main symptoms that we were working on. So we started out with just the adrenal test. Now, in a perfect world, you and I would have all of the testing done at the same time so we can get the full complete picture. But sometimes it just works out to where someone needs to proceed with just one test and we have to prioritize that. And that's what we did here is we ran the adrenal test and it showed up pretty normal. I would not consider it adrenal fatigue, maybe some dysfunction because his afternoon level was really low, but otherwise he was in range throughout the rest of the day and his DHEA level was really good. And so it's like, well, what's going on in terms of the adrenal picture? Why are you only low out of rhythm one part of the day, but your DHEA looks good, but you can't handle stress and you're exhausted? So I don't have the results yet, but what I was sort of playing out in my mind is there's got to be something going on with the gut, because I asked him, kind of went through some of the symptoms that I see and you and I've talked about for GI stuff. I said, maybe there's some type of infection going on that's, stealing your amino acids and impairing digestion.
Yep.
Because he did talk about some heartburn. So I thought, okay, good. We have at least one clue here. And he's got the vertical ridging on the nails like I've had.
Yep.
And so we're running the stool test now. I don't have the results, but let's just hash it out and say maybe there is an infection or a parasite going on, and that's stealing his amino acids. And he's unable to make energy from his food.
It's very possible. People forget, like when we see low amino acids on someone's organic acid test, and some of those organic acid markers for low amino acids could be, off the top of my head, could be L-lactate. That's a marker that goes low. We see low amino acids. It could be cis-aconitase. That's another one. It could be pyroglutamate. These are sulfur amino acid markers. So when we see these low markers, we automatically go back to malabsorption, right? Gut stuff. We automatically go back to stress, because the more we are stressed, our body prioritizes lean tissue. It says, all right, so here's the mindset of the body, of the epigenome. It's saying, all right, we want to get rid of the most metabolically active tissue because it takes the most amount of nutrients and rest and hormonal output to keep it there. So we want to get rid of the most metabolically active tissue in times of stress. It's kind of like you're going for a hike, up Mount Washington, right? And your pack's really heavy. Well, what do? You go into your pack and you pull out all the stuff that may not be a necessity. Well, that's kind of what your body does when it comes to stress. And muscle and tissue like that tends to be one of these things that becomes less of a priority the more stressed you get. And also, people just say, well, if I have low amino acids, why can't I just eat more protein? That's a really good idea. That's one of the things we work on, is we're making sure we have a palm to a fist to a full hand of protein at each meal. That's important. Maybe even adding a protein shake in. But a lot of times it's not enough because of the fact that 50% of the energy of the protein that we take in actually goes to breaking down the protein. Protein's very energy depleting regarding just the digestive processes. And a lot of people already have broken digestion. So we're working on the 5 R's and supporting the digestion with hydrochloric acid and enzymes, but adding in free form amino acids, adding in the collagen like you were talking about is a great way to help fill in those gaps.
Yeah, that's common that a lot of people, even if they came from like a vegetarian or vegan diet, they have trouble adding this stuff back in. Their body is like, whoa, we have no resources available to actually start breaking down these meats. So that's kind of a slow moving process too that I've been dealing with over the past week, is just trying to work some amino acids into people that have not eaten meat for a while. And It takes a lot of energy. I mean, that is like throwing the big log on the fire, and it's definitely a little bit troublesome for some people if they've done it for 5 or 10 or 15 years, which is just crazy.
Yeah, and I personally believe this is the major reason why a lot of people go vegan and vegetarian, because their guts really aren't working, and it's just easier for them to process more vegetable-based things. And they do the shake in the morning, the very low amount of protein. Maybe they add a tiny bit of MCT in there if they're lucky, but most of them, they aren't doing it, and they're avoiding it because their gut isn't working to begin with. That tends to be the reason why.
You know what would be amazing if we could do and get him on board with allowing us to run some testing on him would be Rich Roll. He's got a top ranked podcast as well, and he's got a book about being a vegan, and he promotes the vegan lifestyle. He's got a huge following with this ideology, but he's a skinny guy. So I guarantee if you and I reached out and we said, "Hey, Rich, let us run some GI testing on you," I wouldn't be surprised at all if something showed up in terms of some adrenal issues, maybe some gut issues, maybe infections. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very possible. Now, a lot of vegans and vegetarians, they could still get away with it if they're using a ton of pea protein, or they're using a ton of free form amino acids, or if they're
Yeah.
using a ton of, it depends if they're allowed to do collagen or not. Sometimes in a powder form, they can kind of rationalize it to themselves, hemp protein, even rice protein. So if they're doing a lot of extra amino acid, let's say they're supplementing an extra 100 grams a day, well, that's a huge step in the right direction. So it's possible if they're using supplements to get that. The difference is, as a meat eater, as someone who's omnivore, who eats both, we can get the extra amino acids from meat without all the extra carbohydrates. When you're vegetarian, if you forget using supplementation, if you're just relying off a whole food, it's really hard to get the protein in there unless you're doing soy, pure soy, which we know the detriments of that. We'll have to do a whole podcast on that and the phytoestrogen effect. But for the most part, you're going to be getting a whole bunch of carbohydrates with a little bit of protein. So the people that tend to do good on vegetarian diets are the ectomorphs, because they can handle a lot more carbohydrate and it doesn't affect them. But the mesomorphs or even the endomorphs, right? So go back to our body typing podcast and videos for that info. They tend to be more insulin resistant, and those extra carbohydrates and even some of the lectins and the gut, the anti-nutrients in some of those beans and other proteins the vegetarians eat tend to create a lot of gut inflammation.
Yep, definitely. So I guess let's zoom back into this issue here of why someone may have like a good adrenal result or decent. Maybe it's not stage 3 adrenal fatigue like most people are. What would you first clue into, maybe beyond the gut, that could be going on?
Well, the first thing is we draw, like the first layer, I kind of draw a triangle, right? And in that triangle, when there's energy issues, we always look at the adrenals on the top. So kind of draw a triangle in your mind, put A on the top. That's adrenals. Now, at the foundation, let's say we have adrenal symptoms, but our adrenals look decent. So adrenal function is this nice cortisol rhythm, high to low cortisol rhythm, right? It's where cortisol's higher in the morning, which gives us energy, and it slopes down throughout the day. So if we have adequate cortisol levels, upper 20s to lower 30s, and we have a good rhythm, well, then the next piece is we look down at the bottom 2 points, which are going to be the thyroid and the mitochondria. And we kind of already touched upon the amino acids, because the amino acids are really important for the mitochondria. That's a really important piece. And when we see amino acid issues, we almost always see B vitamin issues, because B vitamins tend to get depleted when there's malabsorption in the gut. And then we also see other nutrients like CoQ10 and L-carnitine, and a lot of the Krebs cycle intermediaries like succinate, fumarate, and malate. We'll see those off on an organic acid test. And then if we go to the other side, that's the T side, that's the thyroid, we can see low thyroid function, whether it's primary hypothyroidism with elevations in TSH from the pituitary, or whether it's low T4, right? Your thyroid's not making enough active thyroid or inactive thyroid hormone, or it's a conversion issue where we're not converting T4 to T3. And that could happen from gut inflammation, autoimmunity, could happen from liver issues, and or just low nutrients like selenium, zinc, and vitamin A and copper, etc.
Hey, I was going to stop you there and ask, with the conversion issues, I know if you have some adrenal issues, maybe it's not severe enough adrenal issues to have like a real diagnosis attached to it. But doesn't that process of cortisol, isn't there some interaction there where you reduce the conversion of the T4 to the active T3?
Exactly. So there's a couple things, right? If cortisol is too high, that can actually increase TSH, and that can block the thyroid conversion T4 to T3. If cortisol is too low, we need some of it to actually get into the cells and to actually help activate T4 to T3 as well. So it's kind of like the Goldilocks effect. We don't want so much where it's a sign of a stress response, right? Because when cortisol is high, too high, it's typically because your fight or flight mechanism, right? Your HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, brain, adrenals are active because your body's sensing stress. So we have that side, and then we have it on the low side where we're now in a chronic stressed out state, and now cortisol is low. So it's the Goldilocks effect. We don't want acute stress happening, and we don't want chronic stress happening. So just enough to help convert that T4 to T3 is essential.
Right. And one other thing I wanted to mention too is you mentioned things causing issues with the thyroid and the lack of selenium and things like that. What comes to mind for me too is, a lack of iodine potentially, maybe a lack of some of the amino acids like we talked about, like tyrosine specifically. And then what about like fluoride and bromide that people are getting if they're still eating some processed foods or drinking fluoridated tap water, for example? Is that a big factor? I mean, is that something? It's something on my radar, but I just don't know how big of a needle mover it really is compared to some of these other ones.
Yeah, I got a video lined up in my queue on my Trello board that I'm going to do a video on fluoride for the thyroid, because they've had a epidemiological study over in Europe come out last year where they looked at people who consumed fluoride water based on the water systems. Like they looked at various towns in England, and they found like the towns that had the more fluoride in the water had the higher incidence of hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
So more low thyroid function was present in people that were having higher amounts and more fluoride consumption in their water supply. So there's definitely a effect there, because fluoride is it's a halide. I think it's the sixth or seventh periodic table element. I'd have to look it up again. My biochemistry is a little bit fleeting right now, but that group, that seventh periodic table, I think it is the halide family. Iodine sits there as well. And basically fluoride can get in there and kind of pinch hit and knock iodine out of its proper function and role of the iodination process, which is making thyroid hormone, right? When we see T for T4, that stands for tyrosine. When we see the 4 or the 3, that stands for the amount of iodine molecules that are there. So we know iodine is an important building block for the production of thyroid hormone.
Yeah. I've been sounding the alarm on fluoride for a while, but I still feel like there's not enough light on it. And so I guess I'll do a video as well. And, the other piece of it that I looked at, which is maybe a little off topic, but there's a study out of China that was looking at children, some that were exposed, maybe different towns, like you said, a fluoridated town versus non-fluoridated. And there was a difference of 7 IQ points when the kids were fluoridated, 7 IQ points lower than a non-fluoridated town. So there is a huge impact on our intelligence as well. And it's no surprise that most of the United States is fluoridated except for 2 cities. I think it's Portland and I want to say it's Houston, which sounds bizarre.
I'm pretty sure it's Half Moon Bay as well. I know Half Moon Bay up in the Bay Area is a one water supply that was not fluoridated. When I was in doctoral school, we had a whole class, a whole public health class based on us going through the literature on fluoride. And it's pretty crazy the stuff that fluoride is linked up to in the hardcore science that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, like the study that you mentioned, I've read Mexico studies that happened in Mexico where it was like 10 to 15 IQ points, like just scary stuff. And in that halide group there is also chlorine too, and bromine. And bromine, you're going to find that in a lot of your conventional bakery foods, a lot of your conventional grains, right? That's why more reasons not to consume grains. And then your chlorine, you're going to get that in your conventional water supply as well. So it's like a double whammy. You don't just get the fluoride, you get the chlorine as well, which are problems. And then also people that studied fluoride, I'll have to have like Dr. David Kennedy come on board here, or Dr. Paul Kahn. There's some great experts on fluoride. But when you get fluoride, it's not just like sodium fluoride. It's fluorosilicic acid, which actually has a lot more other dangerous compounds in it than just fluoride. So again, those molecules can come in and pinch hit in the thyroid and really down regulate the thyroid function. And in the 1940s in Germany, they were using fluoride to treat hyperthyroidism. I mean, it was literally a prescription medication that was given for people that had Graves or hyper symptoms, and because it would go in there and pinch hit and knock down that thyroid function, kind of like reverse T3. You kind of alluded to it. Reverse T3 is when we're in a stressed out state. Your body will convert T4 to reverse T3, which is like putting metabolic blank bullets in your metabolic gun. So when you pull the trigger, yeah, you get the sound of a bullet, but there's no bullet that actually comes out, right? You get the hormone going into the thyroid receptor site, but you don't have that same kind of metabolic effect, which means you're going to have lower thyroid symptoms the more metabolic reverse T3 or RT3 blanks that are produced because of stress.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think I may have mentioned it before, but in the concentration camps in the same time zone around 30s, 40s, sodium fluoride was used in the water, probably high doses for the concentration camp victims to keep them very docile and very numb, almost like operating like a sheep. So not to get conspiratorial here, but there, a lot of our founding fathers said there should be a revolution in the United States every 10 years. And it's been quite some time since we've had any type of major uprising, and our whole country generally is fluoridated. And a lot of people are unhappy with what's going on in the country, but we're all fluoridated. So it's almost like we're too numb to actually respond or actually get energetic enough to do anything about it. So that's crazy.
It's doing something. We know it. Just like, let's just stick to the facts here, right? We know it's affecting the thyroid. We know thyroid has a big effect on IQ, right? You look at many women that have low thyroid hormone levels, their hypothyroidism through pregnancy, right? We know that can create lower IQ in the baby, especially if the thyroid problems are caused by very low iodine levels. We know that can cause a form of retardation called cretinism, right? That's basically a totally preventable form of mental retardation because of very low iodine levels. We know it's affecting the IQ as well, just in people that were born healthy but are just consuming a lot of it. And if you look at the drug Prozac, just look at the organic chemistry of it. Just go to rxlist.com, pull up the organic chemistry of Prozac. You're going to see the major molecule the drug is centered around is a fluoride molecule. So we know that there's a lot of things that drug can do, not a lot of good things per se. Now, there may be some things like calcium fluoride that are more mineral-based in the water, that are more natural. We're talking more of the sodium fluoride and the fluorosilicic acids that are synthetic, man-made, typically as a result of the fertilizer / bomb-making industry. These are a lot of the byproducts of those industries, and a lot of this actually came about after World War II from all the excess bomb-making material that was basically from all the industry, right? A lot of our industry went to making weapons for World War II, and then all these residual things were left over afterwards, and this is what we're getting exposed to today. And some great books on this is like Christopher Bryson has a great book on fluoride. See fluoridealert.org. I think that's Paul Connett. He's a organic chemist over at St. Lawrence University. You have Dr. David Kennedy, DDS, phenomenal guy, great stuff on fluoride as well. So lots of good information out there, and also lots of studies too. Just Google Harvard study and fluoride. You see fluoride will actually increase your risk of osteosarcoma, especially in boys. These are like bone and muscle tumors. So we know there's an increased risk for these compounds, and they can affect your thyroid, and they can create some of these energy issues that we're talking about outside of just adrenals.
Yep, definitely. So long diversion, but that still ties into exactly what we were talking about, because we're not going to be able to see specifically, are you getting fluoride exposure? So we're just going to have to kind of ask and pry you for this question. And so if you do have fatigue, if you do have hypothyroid symptoms, this is something to really look at and make sure that you are being more diligent about filtering your water. I know, Justin, you have a whole house system and your water tastes really good. I've got to taste your water, and I'm typically going to be doing some type of spring water, which does have some natural fluoride, but like you mentioned, it's not the same.
Not the same
So,
thing.
yeah. So really, getting a good grip on your water. If that's the only takeaway that you get from this podcast today, then that's fine, because this is a factor that is still overlooked. And I can't tell you the amount of people that I still see drinking tap water. One of my wife's friends, when we were down in Austin, I got on this whole subject with her and was talking about the science and all of that. And she goes, Evan, I'm not scared. And she goes over to the sink and pours a big glass of tap water and just starts drinking it. And I'm just like, you're not hurting my feelings by doing that. I'm just trying to help you, you know? And so a lot of people are still, they think this is like a tinfoil hat subject for some reason.
I mean, this isn't even that controversial. Just go to the CDC's website and just look at, just Google fluoride in cavities. The CDC has admitted that I think children between 13 or 10 and 14 or 10 and 16, the major cause of cavities in that age group is actually, it's called dental fluorosis, meaning excess fluoride in the drinking water. That's like the major cause of cavities in these younger age children. It's like, my gosh, I mean, I have conversations with dentists and they aren't even aware of this stuff, but it's like the CDC's like, it's admitted it, it's out there. I mean, you can just Google these things, just type in CDC, dental fluorosis, major cause of cavities, and you'll get a whole bunch of studies coming up and you'll get the CDC even saying it. So we know it's out there. It's real. Just, things don't get talked about because there are financial interest out there that, benefit by having that there. So we just want to empower people, be aware of it, do your own research, right? That old Reagan quote, trust but verify. So go do some Google work, pull up some of these studies on Google Scholar or PubMed and do your homework on it. But forget fluoride, right? We know that there's a lot of other crud and crap in the drinking water. Pharmaceutical drugs are getting in the water because we don't have means of filtering these things out. So people throw the drugs in there down the toilet or, emptying them out. Or we have pesticide and chemical residue that goes into the drinking water supply as well. So everyone in their home should have a water filtration system. I have two. I have a whole house water filter as well as a countertop filter that's reverse osmosis based that filters out everything and then infuses some minerals back in as well.
Yep, that's great.
So any additional comments on the mitochondria part or the thyroid part, Evan?
It's something to factor in for sure. If you're struggling with your program and that hasn't been addressed, it's something that you definitely want to take into consideration. The mitochondrial support, we talk about the adaptogens a lot. That's something that I like. I like some of the ribose and some of the PQQ and the other super mitochondrial boosters. It may not be necessary for you. If you look and you get the organics run, if you haven't had it run, by one of us, that's something that you can have done. A lot of times we'll see some mitochondrial issues on there, and then we'll know, okay, you do need some good mitochondrial support, and then we bring it in, and then the lights come back on, and people feel amazing. So it's always fun to really help people feel better. I think that's the funnest part about my job is when you jump on the phone with somebody, and we're like checking in, how you feeling? And the energy's tripled. It's like, that is so priceless, and it cost maybe $30 for a bottle of supplements that we just needed to prove that they needed, and they feel better. So I'm just a huge proponent of what we do. Yeah,
and then again, right, the reason why we need these things are either because one, we're burning the candle at both ends and we're burning through these nutrients faster, and or we've had a poor diet in the past, so we have to make up for that. And or because we've had malabsorption because of infection. So, we're changing the diet, we're getting to the root cause, we're fixing the underlying lifestyle and dietary stressors, and then also making sure our body is detoxifying, right? Toxins rev up our need for antioxidants and B vitamins and all these minerals that you're talking about too. So toxicity from the water, toxicity from the air, poor food, all of these things are going to deplete you as well.
Yep, definitely.
Well, any additional take-homes here, Evan?
Not for today. I think we probably have to break this up into more podcasts. I know you and I both got to go to a call, but also there's a lot of info just in here, and we could kind of navigate the river and go down some more smaller diversion topics that we can break down further. But there's always next time.
So I think the bullet point take homes from today's call is get your adrenals tested. Number one. Get on an adrenal program that includes diet, lifestyle, and supplement changes. Number three, if you're not getting the results you're looking for, 5 to 10% improvement each month, then we got to look at the thyroid. We got to look at the mitochondria via the organic acids. And then once we have that dialed in, then the next piece would be the gut afterwards. Is that a good take home, Evan?
That sounds great.
Awesome, man. Well, best of luck with your patients today. You're going to knock them dead, and we will talk really soon, my man.
Same to you. Well, hopefully I knock them alive.
I'm sorry. When I say knock them dead, in a good way. We're getting to the underlying causes of why they're feeling the way they're feeling. But yeah, I get it, man. Cool.
Totally. Same to you, my man.
All right, you take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.